Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win. Oh man. Or you find a way to lose. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. I promise you won't get boring content. I won't insult you. And we just have a conversation, right? So my question and the conversation is more geared around, does Jerome Boots Ennis, and does Amantis Stanionis, do they deserve a shot at Keith Thurman? Like that's the real question. Because when you look at the welterweight division, outside of Bud Crawford, outside of Earl Spence, the next big name is Keith Thurman. Although Keith Thurman has been a bit inactive, he's still a big name. And at the end of the day, when we're talking about Boots, Stanionis, these guys deserving a shot at Crawford and Spence, they're moving up the ladder. But they still have some work to do. Spence is proven. Crawford's proven. Boots, Ennis, and Stanionis have not fought the type of fights they need in order, in my opinion, to go straight into a title shot with a guy like Crawford or Spence. But Boots fighting Stanionis, or Stanionis fighting Boots, getting a win definitely puts them a step closer to fighting a guy like Spence or Crawford. But I tell you what, if Boots and Stanionis can fight each other, doesn't matter who wins. If the victor can go on to fight a guy like Keith Thurman and beat Keith Thurman, well, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing else for them to do except fight either Spence or Crawford. The problem is this, okay? Keith Thurman has put the work in. Yes, he's been inactive, I get it, but he's put the work in. And like we used to say, when I was in the military, it's a little RHIP. And for those of you who don't know what RHIP, rank has its privileges. And if you were to look at these guys and you were to say, hey, if this was a military structure, although Keith Thurman hasn't been doing as much work as the other guys, well, it's because rank has its privileges. He's worked himself up the ranks. He's holding tight. And it's for those younger guys at that tactical and operational level to put the work in so they can get to that strategic level to where Keith Thurman is. And we also have to understand all of Keith Thurman's accomplishments and accolades. And his one loss, some people say he really didn't lose to Pacquiao. So at the end of the day, if they want a shot at the big dogs, which there are only two who are going to be fighting on July 29th, Spence and Crawford, they've got to face each other, not at Virgil Ortiz, is totally out the picture. And then maybe get a shot at Keith Thurman. The problem is Keith Thurman does. One day he doesn't want to. He says he's not a gatekeeper. Now he's coming back. Looks like he's feeling pretty good about himself fighting Yugas. And then he's considering fighting a guy like Boots because he sees that Boots is on his way. And Keith Thurman seeing that, you know what, those titles are tied up. This is the next best thing to fighting Spence and Crawford outside of myself. And you could see that fight happen. But at the same time, for Thurman to do it, you got to pay him. Because again, it comes back down to the RHIP. Now, as far as what's next for Boots after, tranquilizing Roman Villa, let me tell you something. Roman Villa, he deserves all the credit in the world. Tough opponent. I actually think Roman Villa will give Keith Thurman hell. Because Keith Thurman, his defense isn't like Boots Ennis, man. He doesn't have that long jab like Boots Ennis. Keith Thurman's 5'7". Boots Ennis is like 5'10", 5'11". So there's a lot to take into consideration when you start talking about a guy like Boots, a guy like Keith Thurman fighting someone like Roman Villa. So if we just look at this real quick with Keith Thurman here, right? Keith Thurman, again, 30 wins, 22 by knockout, 1 loss, that was to Pacquiao. He has a 68% KO ratio. They have him here at 5'9", but really he's like 5'7", 5'8". His reach is 69 inches. This is the problem with that. Let me go back in and show you, right? Boots Ennis, has a 31 wins, 28 KOs. But Boots Ennis is 5'11". He has a 74-inch reach. That right there is going to create problems for Keith Thurman. Now, you look at what we just talked about, Boots with his reach, his height, fighting Villa. He was able to control Villa with that reach and just his natural, the assets that he had. You know what I mean? Keith Thurman's not going to have those kind of natural advantages because he doesn't have the length, he doesn't have the reach. So Villa versus Keith Thurman would be very, very interesting, and I think that would be an extremely tough fight for Keith Thurman. And remember, I'm a Keith Thurman fan, but I just got to be real. But a lot of people haven't been this excited when it comes to a fighter, especially in the welterweight division, for quite some time, because outside of Spence and Crawford, you got Keith Thurman, but there really hasn't been a breakout star. Looked like maybe Ugas was going to be that guy. That got put to a stop. Looked like maybe Butev could be that guy, but he's gone inactive. Stanionis, Ortiz. Looked like Ortiz was really going to be that guy, but something's going on with him and his body. Then Stanionis, like, hey, it could be him. He hasn't had the opportunity to fight because he has had to deal with his mandatory and Virgil Ortiz, and now has missed 3 opportunities to fight him. So at the end of the day, as far as a breakout fighter in the welterweight division, Boots Ennis is that guy. Flashy style, combinations, everything, and the ability to tranquilize opponents. And when you have those kind of qualities, handsome, flashy, can tranquilize you, amazing boxing combinations, offense and defense, I tell you what, that's what helps these guys to emerge as a star in boxing, and that's what makes people want to watch you. Because I'm telling you right now, after this weekend, I've never missed a Boots fight anyway since I've learned about him. But I sure as hell ain't missing one now, because what he was doing this weekend was amazing. But for him to come this past weekend and stop Villa, look, Villa didn't have to fight him. He didn't have to fight him. But that just tells you a lot about Roman Villa. Remember, Roman Villa had just went out there and tranquilized Rashidi Ellis. And some people said that was more, they thought it was going to be a mismatch with Ellis and Villa, thinking Ellis would beat him. Then coming into this fight with Jerome Boots Ennis, as a result, some people felt that, Roman Villa may have what it takes to beat him, but to beat Ennis, but that's just not what happened. So now when you take a look at it, we're going to have to see what's the best path to another victory for a guy like Boots Ennis. Because for Stanionis, we don't know what's going on with him now. Okay? But for Boots Ennis, I think he's a step closer to Keith Thurman than Stanionis. But I still think Boots should fight Stanionis. The problem is with Stanionis, no one really knows what's next. So the quick answer, when we look at this, you got to excuse me, I have a cold, right? Is there have been a lot of rumblings, a lot of rumblings that Keith Thurman is supposed to be fighting Ugas. And we just have to wait to hear if that's the case. Now, if that is the case, then Ennis may have some leverage. Because that means that Ennis would have just fought. Thurman and Ugas could be fighting probably within a month of Ugas fighting Roman Villa. And then you could see a fight materialize between Ennis and the winner of Thurman and Ugas before the end of this year. Now, remember, Thurman was 8 years ago the best welterweight in the world after Floyd Mayweather. Now, we know with Keith Thurman, he got married. He's had injuries, which led to inactivity. He went on a run. Look, he beat Sean Porter, beat Danny Garcia, and then things just kind of died down with the marriage and everything like that. But for him to come back and get in the ring, fight a guy like Pacquiao, then disappear after the loss and come back and fight Barrios, and it looked pretty good. It's kind of hurt him, but it doesn't hurt Keith Thurman as far as him probably being on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. But if Keith Thurman would have continued being active over the years, Keith Thurman would probably still be the top dog. And I'm just being honest with you. But he has not looked like the same Keith Thurman that fought Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. And you can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't help it. That ring rust starts to creep in. And I think that's what's happened to Keith Thurman. But I'm going to tell you this right now. When it comes to Keith Thurman and with his matchups has always been pretty compelling. The Barrios one, some people had an issue because Keith didn't hold his ground. But again, the ring rust hurts him. Pacquiao, it was pretty compelling. But not as compelling as when he was, I would say, in his prime. But that being said, if Keith Thurman can come out and clip Ugas, then Keith Thurman is going to sit there now and regain and re-grab the attention of the boxing audience. And what's going to happen now is Ennis calling out Thurman. And this will make it very interesting and can really get Thurman back in what we call a compelling fight. Because that really, in my opinion, is truly the next best fight for Keith Thurman. And although he doesn't want to be a gatekeeper, he's been out the game for so long that he's become that. In the next generation, those guys are on his heels. Even Cody Crowley, Stanionis. Those are the guys, in all reality, that Keith Thurman may have to face. And he's finding himself, Keith Thurman, luckily, still at the top of the welterweight division. And as a result, these other guys are cresting right up around that same position. So he can't get Crawford, he can't get Spence, so he's going to have to fight one of those guys. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. He's had a lot of inactivity, and for some reason, some people underrate him. But we got to still understand when it comes to his power and his movement, those are things that could give Jerome Boots Ennis a lot of problem. The next option for Boots Ennis would be Stanionis. And I'm telling you right now, man, Stanionis is a great fighter. There are boxers who've sparred Stanionis and sparred Virgil Ortiz that favor Stanionis to beat Boots Ennis. And I was surprised to hear that. Now, one guy was Stanionis' stablemate, so take that with a grain of salt. But obviously, there's something about Stanionis' style, the pressure coming forward, and he lets his hands go, and he moves his head, and he does a lot of great things. When he fought Butaev, you saw that Stanionis is a guy, he'll be in a mashup crasher, but he's not going anywhere. But at the same time, when you look at Stanionis' style, right, stylistically, he's probably more resembling a guy like Roman Villa, maybe with a little more talent. And we saw what Boots Ennis did to Roman Villa. So for Stanionis to think he's going to get in there with Boots Ennis and clip him, or like some of these boxers who sparred Virgil Ortiz and also sparred Stanionis, to say they think a guy like Stanionis would beat these guys, I don't know. I'd have to say hold your horses. Let's not take it to the stupid. Now, Stanionis, because of his inactivity, not his fault, man, he's still kind of a little bit underrated because he hasn't had a chance to continue with that momentum that he had after clipping Butaev. But right now, when it comes to the world and what they're looking at, Ennis could be a definitive fight for him. And it could be the next fight that he needs to take, especially if he wants to, like Keith Thurman, to be in a compelling fight. And it would further the excitement and expectation of his career. And that's just something that he has to take into consideration, and his handlers too. Look, for those of you who didn't know, Stanionis got paid some step-aside money to allow the, I think it's Spence and Ugas fight take place. So I feel bad that he hasn't been as active as he wanted to, but at the same time, he did at one point in time get compensated to not fight. So, you gotta understand that. But the point that he's at now, it just kind of sucks for him. But, that could be the fight he has to take. And the other person who a lot of people still don't know about is the Canadian, Cody Crowley. Cody Crowley fights like Earl Spence. He just doesn't have as much power and doesn't have the chin. But he has very similar style, man. That work rate, that coming, nonstop punching, and just coming to chop you down. But he gets in there with a guy like Boots Ennis. I think Cody Crowley, I don't think he makes it out of 4 rounds because his chin is questionable. And I'm just being honest with you. And I like Cody Crowley. But as far as Boots and Stanionis, let me tell you what, they're in the conversation for fighting each other, and even if they don't, maybe one of those guys get a big win against someone else, and they may deserve a shot at Keith Thurman. Crowley, on the other hand, he definitely deserves, he definitely needs to do more work than Boots or Stanionis. Now, Crowley's coming off an exciting fight with Abel Ramos. I don't think a lot of people saw that fight, but Abel Ramos can fight, and he hurt Cody Crowley towards the end of the fight. But the bottom line is this. Crowley wants to fight a lot, and he's the kind of guy who may end up taking certain fights that other people won't take because he wants to be active. If you take a blue-collar guy like Cody Crowley, right, who can outwork just about anyone in the sport of boxing, and you give him an opportunity to fight Boots Ennis, Stanionis, Ugas, Keith Thurman, he's not going to sit there and say no. He's not going to sit there now and say, you know what, on paper my resume isn't as good as Keith Thurman's, but I've been active, he hasn't. But at the same time, we know what Keith Thurman can do if he's really back in the gym grind. He's not going to do all that. He's going to say, I'll take it. And that's the mentality that you want to know that these fighters have. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Crowley versus Stanionis is probably a better fight than Crowley versus Thurman, Crowley versus Boots Ennis, because Crowley and Stanionis is just going to come and crash into each other. And that's just being real. You know, Cody Crowley is never going to go down without a fight. But at the end of the day, if Cody Crowley was to beat Stanionis, then Crowley deserves a fight against Boots, not against Keith Thurman, in my opinion. If Stanionis and Boots fight, and Stanionis beats Boots, to me, Stanionis deserves a fight at Keith Thurman. If he gets through Keith Thurman, he deserves to fight against the big boys, Spencer Crawford. Boots Ennis, right now, is probably deserving of that Thurman fight. But at the same time, he goes and he beats Stanionis. He's right there, to me, to fight Keith Thurman before he gets a shot at a guy like Spencer Crawford. But that being said, this is just my opinion. And does Boots and Stanionis deserve a shot at Keith Thurman? If they fight each other, if they get another big win, then I think yes. And then after that, go on to fight one of the Spencer Crawford if they're still around. But what I think is going to happen, as I've said this in another video, I'm going to tell you right now. Spence and Crawford will probably fight twice because I don't care what Spence says. If he loses, he's going to want a rematch. We already know if Crawford loses, he's going for a rematch. But then after they get their fights out the way, they're going to both probably bubble up to 154 and the belts are going to be dropped. Period. And then you're going to see Stanionis, Thurman, you're going to see Boots Ennis, Cody Crowley. You're going to see Ugas, Barrios. You're going to see all these guys fighting. And I think Thurman will pick up a belt. Boots, he already has part of a belt, but he'll definitely pick up a belt. And then the rest of those guys mixing up, we just have to see how things play out. But the belts are going to be dropped, and we'll see how it goes. But as far as a 4-for-1 deal, I don't think any of them are going to get an opportunity for the 4-for-1 deal because Spence is tired at 147. He doesn't want to do it. Crawford looking for bigger fish to fry. Charlo just bubbled up to 168. He's going to drop those belts at 154. I don't care what no one says. Spence and Crawford will go after those belts at 154. And then Big Charlo will come down from, Jermell Charlo will come down from 168 back to 160. His brother Big Charlo, Jamal, will go from 160 to 168. All of this has been strategized. I have no doubt about it because it makes sense. That way, the guys at 147 can bang it out and pick up some belts. Spence and Crawford can get titles at 154. Jermell can get a title at 160. And Jamal can go up to 168 and possibly get a title. That way, everything remains as is. It's just everybody just basically moves up the ladder. And nobody has a reverse. Because don't think for a second Jermell Charlo is going from 168 now to fight Canelo to melt all the way back down to 154. Just doesn't work like that in boxing. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. But I'm telling you right now, for those of you looking at Keith Thurman's inactivity, look, Rank has his privileges. He's still got the power. He's still got the movement. And Keith Thurman, any day, can come in here and upset the apple cart. These young guys looking at him as an easy cherry pick. Look, Keith Thurman is not Adrian Broner. Y'all understand that? With Eddie Hearn trying to push Conor Ben on Adrian Broner, everybody wants to fight Adrian Broner. Not everybody wants to fight Keith Thurman. You know why they want to fight Adrian Broner? Because his best days are behind him. Like, Adrian Broner cannot recapture anything close to what he had when he was in his prime and out here acting the fool. His days are over. Broner's over. So he needs to capitalize on his name, a couple big fights, but Broner's not, nobody's worried about Adrian Broner anymore. If anything they need to be concerned with him is the fact he's with Don King, and Don King, I'm sure, still has the connection with that secret society to get Broner wins he doesn't deserve. Now, Keith Thurman, that's a whole different animal. Keith Thurman has a healthy lifestyle. He's happy. He doesn't seem to be stressed too much, and there's no bunch of wear and tear on his body from in the ring or out the ring. So I think Keith Thurman is definitely still a problem at 147. And I think these guys need another big win. Then they go through Thurman. Then they look at the big boys. If the big boys don't drop the belts. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans on 7 continents. Yo, I'm in the breeze.